Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of a Hollywood disaster movie, but is actually a real fascinating part of our planet, the Yellowstone supervolcano. So, when you think of Yellowstone, you probably picture geysers like Old Faithful, stunning hot springs, and maybe a bison or two causing a traffic jam. And you're right. But beneath all that incredible beauty lies one of the largest and most powerful volcanic systems in the world. This isn't your typical cone-shaped mountain like Mount Fuji. Yellowstone is a caldera, which is basically a giant crater left behind by a massive eruption hundreds of thousands of years ago. Think of it less like a mountain and more like a massive underground plumbing system of molten rock, or magma. This magma chamber is huge. Imagine a pancake of semi-molten rock about 40 miles long and 20 miles wide, stretching several miles deep. It is this immense heat source that powers all the famous geysers and hot springs at the surface. The ground in Yellowstone is literally breathing. It rises and falls as the pressure from the magma and gases below changes. Scientists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory monitor this activity 24/7, using GPS, seismometers, and other cool tech to keep a close eye on the volcano's every twitch. Now, let's talk about the supervolcano part. What makes a volcano super? It all comes down to the size of its eruption. Scientists use something called the Volcano Explosivity Index, or VEI, which is a scale from 0 to 8. A super eruption is anything that scores an 8 on this scale. It's the kind of eruption that can eject over 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. To put that in perspective, that's enough ash and rock to bury the entire state of Texas 5 feet deep. Yellowstone has had 3 of these monster eruptions in its history. One about 2.1 million years ago, another 1.3 million years ago, and the most recent one around 640,000 years ago. If you do the math, you might notice a rough pattern of an eruption every 600,000 to 800,000 years. Since the last one was 640,000 years ago, that's led some people to worry that we're due for another one. So, what would happen if Yellowstone did erupt again on that massive scale? Let's be clear, this is a hypothetical scenario, but it's one that scientists have studied extensively. The immediate impact would be catastrophic for the area around the park. A pyroclastic flow, a superheated, fast-moving cloud of gas, ash, and rock, would obliterate everything within a 100-mile radius. This isn't like a lava flow you can outrun. We're talking about a force of nature moving at hundreds of miles per hour. The states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho would be hit the hardest in the initial blast. But the effects wouldn't stop there. The eruption would send a colossal plume of ash and gas, particularly sulfur dioxide, soaring into the stratosphere. This ash would then be carried by global wind patterns, blanketing huge portions of the United States. Think of a thick gray blanket of fine, gritty powder covering everything. Within days, cities as far away as Denver or Salt Lake City could see several feet of ash. This would collapse buildings, clog water systems, short out power grids, and grind transportation to a halt. All flights would be grounded, not just in the US, but globally, as volcanic ash is incredibly dangerous for jet engines. Breathing this ash would also be a major health hazard, causing severe respiratory problems. It's like breathing in tiny shards of glass. Agriculture would be devastated. The ash would smother crops, poison soil, and contaminate water sources for livestock across the entire breadbasket of America. This would lead to massive food shortages, not just in the US, but around the world, as America is a huge food exporter. Now, for the global part. The huge amount of sulfur dioxide blasted into the stratosphere would mix with water vapor to form tiny droplets of sulfuric acid. These droplets would create a haze that reflects sunlight back into space. The result? A volcanic winter. Global temperatures could drop by several degrees, potentially for years. This might not sound like much, but it would have a dramatic impact on our climate. Growing seasons would be shorter and colder, leading to widespread crop failures on a global scale. The monsoon cycles in Asia could be disrupted, affecting the water and food supply for billions of people. We'd see a chain reaction of consequences: economic collapse, mass migrations as people flee uninhabitable areas, and intense competition for scarce resources like food and clean water. It would be a global crisis unlike anything modern humanity has ever experienced. The world would fundamentally change. Okay, take a deep breath. I know this all sounds incredibly terrifying, and it is. But now for the most important part. What are the actual odds of this happening? So while it's a possibility, it's an extremely remote one. The idea that we are overdue is also a misconception. Volcanoes don't run on a strict schedule like a train. Those past eruption intervals are just averages over millions of years. There's no guarantee it will ever have a super eruption again. In fact, the most likely future activity at Yellowstone isn't a super eruption at all. It's far more probable that we'll see smaller hydrothermal explosions, which are like geyser eruptions on steroids, or lava flows. These events have happened much more frequently in Yellowstone's recent geological past, and would have impacts that are mostly contained within the park boundaries. While still dangerous for anyone nearby, they are not a global threat. The constant media hype about Yellowstone being a ticking time bomb can be misleading. It makes for great headlines, but it doesn't reflect the scientific reality. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory is one of the best monitored volcanic systems on the planet. If something were to happen, we would have warnings. Magma moving towards the surface would cause intense earthquake swarms, dramatic ground deformation, and changes in gas emissions. These signs would likely give us weeks, months, or even years of warning before a major eruption, allowing time for preparation and evacuation. So, should you be worried? Not really. It's good to be aware of the powerful forces that shape our planet. But losing sleep over a Yellowstone super eruption isn't necessary. Instead, we can appreciate Yellowstone for what it is. A breathtakingly beautiful natural laboratory that gives us a window into the dynamic and powerful engine running our world. It's a reminder that our planet is alive, constantly changing, and that we are just a small part of its very long and dramatic story. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope this cleared things up and gave you a better understanding of the science behind the headlines. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and maybe share this with a friend who's been watching too many disaster movies. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.